Tim's 2 for $4 breakfast sandwich deal is back, only at Tim Hortons. That means you can wake up to a great breakfast at a great price. Get 2 breakfast sandwiches on a freshly baked bagel, homestyle biscuit, or English muffin with either sausage or bacon for just $4. It's a deal so good, I'm on my way to Tim Hortons right now. Literally. At participating U.S. restaurants, offer available on standard breakfast sandwiches for a limited time plus applicable taxes. Single sandwiches at regular price.
Blog Talk Radio.
Guess who just got back today? Them wild-eyed boys that had been away haven't changed, had much to say, but man, I still think them cats are crazy. The boys are back in town, the boys are back in town. I said, the boys are back in town, the boys are back in town, the boys are back in town.
All right, hey, welcome to Twin Talk Radio. You got myself, Brian Benedict, retired firefighter, and speaking to you from Indiana. And we also have my brother Bruce, which is a U.S. Army major, actually a Major Payne, retired. Bruce, are you there?
Well, I'm here. I'm just happy that today, after the 4th of July, you could introduce yourself properly.
Why? Why would I introduce myself any other way?
You're great at introducing yourself. We're fantastic.
All right. You want to introduce me from now on?
Oh, my God, no. Yeah, my little brother. That's how I'm going to introduce you.
Oh.
Everyone, this is my little brother.
Oh, man.
My little
okay,
fireman.
Major Payne. We got it. Yeah.
And whenever I have a cookout,
I like it.
I ask Brian to grab the lighter fluid and the match. He can start the fire for me. And the fire extinguisher.
Right. And the fire extinguisher on my back, isn't it?
The only problem is
you're
that
funny.
little fire extinguisher I have, the little bitty one, that like the small one that you buy at Walmart. For some reason, every time I ask you to come up to a fire pit or something, you always strap that little thing onto your back. Is that like the retired fireman, outfit? I want to still be a fireman. Is that what that is?
Well, whatever it takes. I got to have both of my hands, able to save you when you fall in the fire. So, hey, I got a question for you, man. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about this tug of war thing. Tug of war negotiations. What is that all about? What do you think? What are we talking about with negotiations and communications when we talk tug of war? Since you're the United States retired Army major.
My official answer is I have no idea what you're talking about.
So let me ask you this. We're gonna go military first, and we're gonna go, where it may affect some of the other people, like firefighters and police officers. But in the world of intel, you've been in that world for a long time, and it is a community and it's a network of people. When you have to build a network in order in the Army, in the military, anywhere, in any organization, you have to build a network of trust, and sometimes that leads to promotions also because people know you and you have a history with them. So, your history as a private or as a sergeant or as a second lieutenant or first lieutenant and major, through the years, whether you realize it or not, you've grown this network through what you would say would be the Department of the Army, whoever promotes from that end of it, or your supervisors. And even to this day, when you're working as a GS 15 job in D.C., it is still the same thing. It's your influence through those years have built credibility up, and that's what we're talking about.
People really have
networking.
to be careful, man. I mean, they really have to be careful when they're moving up because, it's fascinating how now that we look back, how the history of performance or history of positive or negative activity way back when when we were enlisted. I mean, way back when we were privates or specialists or whatever,
sure.
20-some years ago, how influential that is to the decisions nowadays. I mean, I hate to say it, but what happens is there's a pattern, right? And so, the tug of war really is you're not only, trying to connect with people so they will refer you or help you with obtaining employment or help you influence some current outcome. But, they're doing that because they know your reputation, they know who you are and your character, but really that's based on a pattern of character and ethics, right? And so, most people have a pattern. And so a lot of people will, it's kind of like a game. You throw out a name and you go, okay, associate that person with one word. And, it's kind of that simple. I hate to say it,
right.
But, a lot of the people, when we look back now, at least when I look back now, I still know these guys, especially with the social media now, but I still know all these guys that I grew up with back in the early 90s and the late 80s.
Oh, yeah.
And, when I came in, I was, so E1, and then we moved up to E5, whatever, E6. All of those guys that still stayed in the service retired
right.
as senior warrant officers, senior commissioned officers, sergeant majors, believe it or not. It's crazy, right?
Right.
And then even the ones who got out, I mean, everyone now, when you're talking, it's hard to believe when you're in your early 20s, but now that we're hitting 50, a lot of these guys who we knew in our early 20s are,
right.
In charge of companies. They're in influential positions. And so your network throughout the years is really influential, but it's influential either good or bad, right? Because it's good.
Exactly.
If you were consistently a good person doing consistently good and ethical things and accomplishing great things throughout the years, then you're a great performer. If you were consistently not good, then that's a problem, and you kind of have to overcome that, or I hate to say it, but you almost have to change a career to start branding yourself, because now you have a reputation you can't outlive, and because all those people that you didn't think mattered too much because you're in your early stages of your career, now they're influential people 20, 30 years later. Somehow, everyone progresses into those either CEOs, they start their own companies, or they become very influential staff executives on some of these companies and government organizations. So, yeah, it definitely does matter a lot. Yeah.
It's amazing how that works. I mean, it really is,
mm-hmm.
and you don't realize it when you're in your 20s. We went in when we were 18 years old. You don't realize that those guys that actually stay in, even the ones that don't stay in, had you just maintained a connection, mm-hmm. with them, they're probably, very influential in their field somewhere in the world.
Yeah.
But you're just not in that community.
Let's say your example, you got out when you're in E5, right? Over in Germany. So all of those people, when you're a cable dog, all those guys at the 82nd and over in Stuttgart, you probably don't run into them now. But even though that was a very difficult time to transition into a civilian job, right? You have to almost, in my mind, it would be easier at that point to look at it in a positive way and say, look, this is an opportunity for me to restart basically what my network of people who I'm going to hang around with, and start building up this not only the network but my reputation. And how do I want my reputation? And let's build it that way.
Yeah,
new groups.
The reason that it would be easier is it's not necessarily easier. What it is yourself. You have guys that all stayed in, and you help them get jobs after they get out, and you still have relationships with those same guys you knew when you were in your 20s. And so, so my perspective is when I got out, it kind of started over again. It kind of starts over again. But I always use an example where, one of the council members that are on the city council in the city that we grew up in was actually a part-time employee with the first job that I had outside the military. So fast forward 20 years.
Wow.
And now she's on the city council making decisions for fire, police, and city workers. So you never know when it's going to come back around. What you did 20 years ago is probably the most important thing.
You know what's fascinating is I'm just looking on Facebook, and for these class reunions, like 30-year class reunions, right? And so one of our really good friends in the year before us or after us, they graduated in, 85? He started posting all of these old photos of all of his friends when they were in high school, and it just solidifies what we're saying is everyone, even to this day, is looking at those photos going, yeah, I remember that guy. I remember growing up with him. I wonder if he's any different than he was back then. Probably not.
Hey, you never know. People do change, and some people will surprise you. But it is, some take on that, they start getting put in positions and they start, being different. We always say in the police and fire service that once they get into a high-ranking position, all of a sudden, like their head goes in their butt. And but it's just it's not really that, I don't think. I think it's a separation of trying to maintain that leadership position and subordinate position.
Tough.
I mean,
think about it.
Very tough. Very tough.
Yeah, if you've made your connections, but then now you're trying to supervise the same folks. I mean, the best thing about the military is they try to move you when it comes to that. But if you can remember at the time when you're an enlisted guy in a squad, and then they make you the squad leader, that is a tough thing to do. Or they make you a platoon sergeant. And it's like you're trying to lead the guys that you hung out with, and that's a challenge, right? And it's not a fun place to be.
Right.
So I mean, and I would assume that in the fire department they would move people, when they did that.
Well, and they I mean, you only move within the department, so however large the department is. That's one of the I think that's one of the downsides that you have with smaller departments is that you actually can be in charge of the guys that you were just drinking beer with, last night. So hey, if I'm thinking about it, if anybody is listening to this podcast right now, you can always call in, ask us a question. It's 213-943-3674. It's 213-943-3674. And here's one thing that I'm looking back.
Hold on. Hey, Brian, I hope everyone takes advantage of that because the last time it was at the end of the podcast. Hey, and you're blaming me for it, your younger brother? I mean, listen, you're going to hit 50 before I do. Okay? So, I'm just saying, 1 minute, I'm going to call you within that 1 minute that we were born and say, hey, happy birthday, old, fart. So, hey, so here, in networking, we're talking about tug-of-war negotiations. So tug-of-war, the reason that, we kind of put that in there is because
sometimes it is I did some bad things, I did some good things, I did some bad things, did some good things. But it also deals with a lot of the negotiations that's going on right now throughout the fire departments, police departments. It is negotiating, while you're, maybe an idea with coworkers, maybe an idea or some proposal that you have for a side job. Building that connection, it still takes consistency. And if you are one of those guys that, if your performance, you've just gotten by, it takes people to push you, you're always negative. And that's a hard one. Keeping a positive attitude is very difficult, really, in the police and fire service. I suffered from it myself. So it's very difficult. You fall into this niche of complaining about things. But if you want to affect decisions across the table with decision makers from the city, you have to connect with them. And you don't wait. You can't wait until you reach the board that goes over there and does that. Because it takes so long, you have to go to these young professional meetings. You have to meet future leaders, and that's a big thing. I just looked up a few minutes ago networking meetings in Chicago, just for an example. One of the ones that came up was young professionals. Well, there's young professional meetings everywhere. It's usually people under the age of 40, I believe, which is perfect because it is under the age of 40. And so you're dealing with a lot of young people that have aspirations to be maybe a community leader, city leader, county, state, legislature, whatever. And you got them right at the beginning level. And you're building you're building the business of you from day one.
Yeah, but I tell you, I think the challenge, though, comes in to knowing what you want. Because here's the problem, right, is you can influence that kind of stuff, right? You can influence people and do all kinds of things, but you have to actually have a plan and a goal and an end state, right? And so if you're just kind of winging it, then, it's not going to work. I mean, what's the purpose? But if you're
I don't think so.
The assumption is, well, it depends on what you're wanting out of the connection, right? If you're just wanting a connection, then you can connect. But if you want to influence the connection, then what are you trying to influence them? What direction are you trying to influence them into? And then you can plant the seed.
Well, here's the thing, is that, you can't, to me, you cannot have an ulterior motive when connecting. Now, you can disagree with that, but when you join one of those young professionals, I know you will, because you're a major pain. Okay, so anyway, if you have an ulterior motive, you're not going to be a genuine person. So you're going in, this is a great thing. You're going in open-minded. Very hard. Okay, you're going in open-minded, and you're going in just to try to give value to people, however you're able to, genuinely, without expecting anything in return. Okay, and you're building your value, and that's really the only way that you can do it. You say what you're going to do. You help them. What do they need? What do you need? I'll be there.
Right.
Offer value. I mean,
what you're saying is that if I'm trying to connect with somebody, then what I should do is be the pincushion for them to complain to. I'm the guy who, vent to me and put all your frustrations on my shoulders, and I have to take it in for you. I ain't gonna
do what? That's not a bad idea, because you went through some coaching exercises, just recently, and you might be able to use some of those skills.
I'm a certified coach, man.
Yeah, and a certified pincushion, because you're a pain in my ass. But anyway, that's why we got this radio show, because it's an excellent commentary between you and I. Right. So it's perfect.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is, no matter whether you are the pincushion, the person to listen, I'm going to tell you, there's a lot of guys within these fire and police departments that just need an ear. They just need somebody to talk to. And if you're that guy, and if you can keep it confidential, your value is going to increase with every phone call.
And that's what that does, right? That coaching thing. I mean, that's one thing that you and I were talking about, that I guess the fire department and maybe the police department, they just haven't, they don't have enough of. Because look, I mean, the military guys, I got it. I'm a vet, so, but you're not. Very few veterans have been in that kind of combat zone every day of their career, like a fireman. All the stuff that you see on a day-to-day basis for 20 years, or a police officer who's not all of them are as busy as the others, but some that are really, really busy. You're seeing really bad things every day, and
every day.
And so you have to have a safe place to kind of just talk it out, just get it out of your system, and that's kind of where the coach comes in, to allow that to happen without a biased view or any opinions. But when you're trying to connect with someone, for me, I kind of look at it, and I don't know, maybe you're looking at it as the first step in trying to connect with a person. So you kind of go to one of those meetings, or like Networking International, or something like Business Networking International, or BNI, or something like that, and you start befriending people. And so that first step is, let's just try to get to know each other on a friend level, on a personal level, to where we trust each other to a certain point. But at a certain point of that relationship, whether it's a year into it or 10 years into it, maybe there's a switch that you're like, man, maybe this guy could help me out, or maybe I could help him out, but maybe this guy could help me out, right? And then now I plant the seeds.
What do you do when you build friendships up? You do plant the seed 20 years ago, by doing what you've told them you're going to do, by providing some type of a value, with the the department representative job with police and fire. It's one of those where you say you're going to be somewhere at the third shift at 11 o'clock. You need to be there at third shift at 11 o'clock at night. And when you do that consistently, and when you tell them, if someone calls you and say, hey, I've been hurt, I'm at home, what do I do? And you say, I'll be there tomorrow. You've got to be there tomorrow. And so I think, a lot of, like, they're having some problems in different places around the country with these negotiations. We hit on it just a little bit last week, but we got 7 minutes left in this podcast. And one thing that I want to ask you, and this is going to be tough, retired majors, okay?
Yeah.
This is going to be tough.
7 minutes.
I
can give you the world in 7 minutes, so bring it on.
You know what? I know you'll actually be talking past 7 minutes. The show will be over and you'll still be talking. Okay. So this is straight from John Maxwell. Straight from John Maxwell's 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth. Okay.
Yeah.
And you and I are both Maxwell certified. All right. So I'm going to ask you this one pivotal question, and I want you to answer it truthfully. What word describes you? What word in the dictionary describes you?
Awesome.
Hey, now that is a positive word. Okay.
Yeah, man. Hey, look, this is the problem, right? Is some people we're laughing and joking, but what it implies is if you consider yourself, the one word you consider your own self to be is not outstanding, then everyone else is going to perceive you to be even less than what you think you are. And so you have to think that you are fantastic. You're not great at everything, but what you do and who you are, I'm an ethically correct person. I have better ethics than 99% of the world.
Right.
I am great at this, not as good as that, but somebody else can do that. I'm great at such and such, right? Like resume writing, best transition, translating experience, federal resumes, things like that. Okay. Yes, outstanding. And you know what? If I thought any less of myself than that, what's everyone else going to think? I mean, I have to.
No, exactly.
I have to think of myself that way. I would think.
All right.
What's
me
your
ask you
word,
this,
man?
Let me ask you this.
I've got a lot
What's
of
my
words
word?
for you, but what's your
word? My word is genuine. Genuine. Because it is. It has to deal with ethics, friendships, trust, the whole thing. And I really believe that. And here, you and I both have something very similar other than being twins. You and I have something very similar. And I don't know if you realize this or not, but
we're
being
5'5",
ethically,
I think, right?
Well, you may be, but I'm 5'6.5" or 3/4, one of the other.
Oh, that's right.
And I'm 5'6", but I feel 6'5". I think without the little man syndrome. But what we have in common is that we are both so ethically correct. I think. I mean, when you ask me something, I'm going to tell you. It may be hard to take, but I'm going to try to tell you a little tactfully. But when someone's doing something wrong, I have to try to be doing it right. And so what happens is, in this world we live in, sometimes that builds conflict with those that aren't ethically correct. And it's a very tough decision. And sometimes, you have to be willing to take a hit to be ethically correct a lot of times. And it's not financially probably the right thing to do. It's not, rank the right thing to do, but it is the right thing to do. No, it's not. And you have to just suck it up and drive on,
That's right.
So
at least you can sleep
I've
at
always
night.
liked that saying. No, you got to sleep at night. Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
Even though both of us don't, you still got to sleep at night.
That's right, man.
So we got 2 minutes left. If anybody wants to call in, they can call in at 213-943-3674. And here's another thing. How do you value people? I'm putting you on the spot right here. How do you value people? This is tough John Maxwell questions.
Yeah, those are great questions. Yeah, I value everybody individually. Everyone's trustworthy until proven otherwise. And that's just how I look at it. How about you?
Yeah, and well, I value. I do exactly that as well. I kind of give people. I almost make excuses for people that aren't kind to me. So I the first thing I say is, oh, they were just born that way in my mind. Yeah. And then I usually give them about 3 chances to be nice. So the second thing is, like I go into another place, and I talk to somebody, and I'm like, well, that person just, they might have been scolded by an employer, a spouse, reprimand. You have no idea what just happened 5 minutes ago. And so I really give them the benefit of the doubt. And I think that's how I add value also by not judging right off the bat, and I'm patient with that. So it is. So we got 50 seconds left. If you can add anything to this and your awesomeness, if you can add anything to this in 40 seconds of the tug of war, let me know. Yeah. Go ahead.
No, Jesus.
33 seconds.
Spot, man. Yeah, tug of war, man. I would say the best way to win the tug of war with connection is to understand the other side as well or better than your own side, and use their strengths against them. Yeah,
and look at perspective. That's right.
Sun Tzu. That's what we use all the time.
Hey, we got 7 seconds left, and Bruce, hey, thanks from calling from Virginia. We'll see you next Friday, man.
All right, man.
Tim's 2 for $4 breakfast sandwich deal is back, only at Tim Hortons. That means you can wake up to a great breakfast at a great price. Get 2 breakfast sandwiches on a freshly baked bagel, homestyle biscuit, or English muffin with either sausage or bacon for just $4. It's a deal so good, I'm on my way to Tim Hortons right now. Literally. At participating U.S. restaurants, offer available on standard breakfast sandwiches for a limited time plus applicable taxes. Single sandwiches at regular price. Tim's 2 for $4 breakfast sandwich deal is back, only at Tim Hortons. That means you can wake up to a great breakfast at a great price. Get 2 breakfast sandwiches on a freshly baked bagel, homestyle biscuit, or English muffin with either sausage or bacon for just $4. It's a deal so good, I'm on my way to Tim Hortons right now. Literally. At participating U.S. restaurants, offer available on standard breakfast sandwiches for a limited time plus applicable taxes. Single sandwiches at regular price.